Introducing our guest speaker, Professor Wasim Saman, and he is going to talk about solar panels and climate change. Now, Wasim has been a leader in sustainable energy and one of Australia's most respected voices on renewable technologies. With a long career in engineering, energy research and innovation, he has played an important role in advancing solar energy adoption and improving the way we design and manage energy efficient buildings. Wasim has spent decades helping Australia transition towards cleaner, smarter energy systems, and his work continues to influence policy, industry practice and community understanding. His talk today, Solar Panels and Climate Change, will explore the real impact of solar technologies, the opportunities they create for reducing submissions, and the challenges we still need to overcome. Please join with me in welcoming Professor Wasim Saman. Got it, David?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry to be interrupting your lunch. It's my pleasure to talk to such a selected special audience today. Some of you may be pleased to hear that I will not be talking about climate change. I'm an engineer and I'm going to talk about how we can make the best of our solar systems. Can I ask for a quick show of hands, how many people have solar in their homes? That's great. Well, I hope after today you'll be able to use it better. That's one of the ideas. I'm sure a lot of you are still wondering why you've got lots of solar panels and you're still paying high power bills. So maybe today there'll be a few practical things. Having said that, not only we can save money through the proper use of solar, but also we can do a lot to reduce the damage to the environment. And I don't think I need to speak about climate change because I think we're all living the impacts of climate change, and hopefully there are not that many of the people here who don't believe in climate change. Usually you have a lot of people here that come and give a plug for something. I haven't got anything to give a plug for, except for a scheme that I am helping establish, and we've established in 3 council areas to train volunteers to help people with their energy bills. So if you think you have some links with councils who might want to start such a scheme, please take my email address and contact me later. We started in Tea Tree Gully, and this is the little ad for it. People actually make appointments and come and spend half an hour with a volunteer who is independent and always end up with a reduced energy bill. And now it's running in 3 councils, and there are 2 others actually on the process of going for it. So that's my plug for today. Let's see if this works. I must be doing something wrong. Up. I tried that. Okay, I tried that. Okay, so some of the questions, if I have enough time to answer, will be, why do we need solar? And how big a solar system we need? There's a lot of talk about batteries. Should I install a battery? What about EVs? They're now coming onto their own and selling like hotcakes. And then go to how to make the most of the solar system we have, and also how do we choose our best energy plan, which is becoming really a difficult thing to do. Why do we need rooftop solar? I think I've answered some of the questions already. Conventional fuels are running out, and I'm sure most of you know that, for example, Australia has run out of petroleum. We have to import most of our petrol from overseas. We have lots of gas and coal, but we are helping damage the environment through exporting them. Twice as much as of the emissions that we produce in Australia are produced by the coal and natural gas we export, just in case you want to know that. Obviously, we have lots of aging power plants, and a lot of them are needing a lot of attention, a lot of money to keep going, at least for the next 3 or 4 years or 5 years until there's more solar and more storage. And we are a lucky country. We are blessed with more solar and wind than almost any other country in the world, so we might as well use it. And the final point, well, we know that lots of studies recently have shown that the cheapest way to generate energy in Australia and many parts of the world is now renewables, solar and wind. But the final point that I added actually to the slide yesterday was the fact that if we have our own energy supply, certainly we will be less worried about wars taking place in the Middle East as they are doing now. And if we all had electric vehicles now, we wouldn't be worried about the price of petrol, which is obviously going to continue shooting up for the next few weeks, and hopefully less than that. Just to give you a brief history of where our gas and electricity bills are heading, and you can see on the left-hand side the different states in Australia and how the typical average annual electricity bill has gone up, certainly in the last financial year to over $2,600 in some parts of Australia. But believe it or not, while we used to be the most expensive electricity buyers in South Australia, we are now not the top. Many parts of New South Wales are paying more for their electricity than we are, and we are pretty close to the middle. I don't know if I had a cursor, I would show you, but this is us, and you can see some big parts of New South Wales have higher up, and this is the average price rise. You can see the price is going up, and I can say the same about gas. I'm sorry I don't have an updated version of this, but gas prices again are shooting up in different states, including South Australia, and this is why we are paying more for them. So why is this happening? Well, as usual, we are not planning long term as a country and even as a state, or at least in this state we seem to have taken solar to heart, and 75% of our electricity already comes from solar, and that's why we are a lot more cushioned against variations of prices of other fuels. As I said before, certainly the power stations are all getting too old, and governments are putting a lot of money to try and keep them going, but they're not going to last long, and that's why sometimes there are interruptions in some states. Luckily, probably not South Australia in particular, because most of our power comes from renewables already. Certainly, we have lots of companies, believe it or not, hundreds of companies that deal with energy nowadays, and they all want to make their profit, and obviously we have to pay. And of course, we in South Australia and in many other parts of Australia, we use a lot of, or quite a bit of gas, not a lot of gas, but a small amount of gas to make up the, if you like, the difference between what's available and what is needed. And the slide at the bottom here shows how the electricity prices have been directly linked with the wholesale price of gas. So even though we don't use a lot of gas, but influence is very large on the electricity prices, because when we use gas, the electricity prices shoot up so much, and that influences the overall picture. And I'm aware of a few people who've worked in the gas industry here. I'm pleased to see them. Australia has obviously had a solar boom over the last few years, and these are the different states. The top one is actually Tasmania, who's always had a lot of hydroelectric generation. They relied on the power of water for generating their electricity throughout for as long as we can remember. This one is South Australia, and you can see how we are now dependent to the tune of 75 or more % on our electricity supply from renewables, and then the rest of the states are lagging well behind. This is rather a long list of how we can reduce our energy bills as individuals and householders. And I'm only going to have time to talk about the ones which are highlighted in green, but even then I've asked David to tell me to stop when we run out of time or when you've had enough. So we'll start with solar and then continue and see how far we go. So I'm sure you're all familiar with what a solar system is made of. We all have seen our solar panels on our roofs, but also we have a key component in the solar system, which is called an inverter, which converts the DC electricity into AC, which we can link to the grid and to our homes and use our appliances in. And then there's a meter which counts how much we are feeding the grid or taking away from it, so that our electricity bills and our feed-in tariff is calculated. Obviously, all our systems are connected to the grid, and I put here a question mark next to cleaning. I am aware of some organizations that go around and say, your solar panels are not working well, they're dusty, and I personally don't believe we need cleaning. I think we get enough rain to get them working in reasonable order. If we look at them and they're really dusty and we want to hose them down, that's great if it's easy enough. But you don't need to worry too much about that to get almost the best out of your solar. Lots of people ask, how many solar panels should I have? And in the past, we used to say, well, maybe you need something like 6 kilowatts of solar panels they're sufficient for a typical home in Adelaide. But recent events have shown that the panel cost has come down so much, and B, the biggest portion of the cost now is the installation, and once the company comes, the latest tendency has been to cover the whole roof with solar panels. And in a minute, I'll show you the impact of having not the best orientation on the performance of these panels, just in case people say, oh, it's no good, this is facing west or north or whatever. Also, if we are needing to offset the cost of the energy we are getting from the grid, in the old days, and I'm one of the people who, when we started putting solar panels, I still get about 50 cents per unit of electricity, and it is going to go on until the middle of 2028, which is good as far as I'm concerned. But in reality, for most other people, lots of them get as little as 0 or 2 cents nowadays, or they're lucky if they get 6 cents. At the same time, we are charged more like 50 cents for the unit of electricity we get. So if we want to nullify that difference, we need to have more solar and export as much as we can to the grid. If we really want to design a system, there is some software that we can use to make this happen, to work out the sizing and the orientation. And it's a free link to something called Sunspot, and again, it's independent. These are some of the questions people ask regularly. For example, what happens if I have the wrong orientation? I'm sorry, this table is quite complicated, but if we look at Adelaide, and you can see that the best orientation is obviously facing north, and we get 99% of the maximum possible. But even if we make it face the wrong way, which is south, we still get 69% of the solar. So don't believe people that tell you it's no good, especially as the panels are quite cheap. The other important factor, which is important in how they perform, is the temperature of the cells. And the hotter they get, the less they perform, the less well they perform. And normally the cell temperature will be about 20 or more degrees more than the air temperature because it's facing the sun. So typically it'll be losing 10 or 15% of its best performance, which is meant to be right here at 10 degrees. So one of your guests today, Stuart, and I, many years ago, did some work looking at the temperature and how we can reduce it, and worked out that we needed about a couple of 20 centimeters, I seem to remember, gap under the panels to try and get them to cool with the moving air underneath them. Partial shading is quite serious. Lots of people have lots of trees, and obviously the trees sometimes shade the panels. One of the problems with panels is that when you shade one panel, the whole of that area or subsystem starts badly performing or stopping producing its electricity. This is an issue, but there are some technical solutions for it, and one of the local manufacturers of solar panels has solved it by making the control of each panel independent of the rest. Another thing that I've noticed, certainly over the last 5 or 6 years, is that you get a lot of salesmen that come to you and say, oh, you have only 4 or 5 or 10 or 15 panels, and they're quite old. They may be 10 years old or more. Throw them all out and start again. Well, please don't, because they're designed, solar panels are designed to last 30 to 40 years. There's nothing that goes wrong in the panel itself. So if you need panels, if you need more panels, add to what you've got. The efficiency hasn't gone up a lot since, certainly over the last 15 years or so. It's gone up fractionally, but certainly they still perform pretty well. And certainly some of them have been working for the last 40 years without any issue. If we get a reduction, it's maybe 4 or 5% over 15, 20 years, which is nothing to speak of. Having said that, some of the connections, or particularly the inverter, which is the heart of the system, usually needs replacing after 10 years or so, and you could be replacing it without having to change the panels. Batteries. I'll say a few words about batteries because they are in the news at the moment and there have been a lot of discussions and subsidies, and we'll try and update you on that. Obviously, to stop paying a lot for our electricity in the evenings when there's no sunshine, we should have a battery, because that means that the solar is being generated during the day. If we have enough solar in the battery to last us the evening and the next morning, we should pay very little for our electricity bill. And that's why the recent campaign or recent government subsidy has been extremely popular, and I'll show you a few figures about it in a minute. The other option that I draw people's attention to when we talk about home batteries, and I'm certainly encouraging lots of people to use them, is, would you believe, electric cars. Just as a matter of interest, the batteries being installed around the home start with 10 kilowatt hours, 10 units of electricity. And some people are installing more than that at the moment, up to 20 or 30, and we'll see in a minute, especially after the subsidy. But a typical electric vehicle will have 100 or 150 units of electricity stored in its storable in its battery. So it has a much bigger battery than what you are installing in your home, and the technology is getting close to being able to actually use some of the stored energy in the car to run your home. We'll talk about that in a second. Batteries, if we look at them strictly on economic basis, may or may not be economical. They certainly save our energy bill, but we're talking about paying, I don't know, $10,000 for a large enough system, and we need to work out how much time we need to get this money back, depending on how much electricity we use and so on. There is a case to be made, particularly for large energy users. Yes, I better hurry up. I'm getting a little hint. So the cheap home battery program, which was announced by our energy minister in the middle of last year, is going crazy in terms of how many people are using them. And you can see in this graph the trend of how quickly it grew. And for those of you who are contemplating installing batteries, and especially if you want a large battery, I say, please do something about it now, because from May, the subsidy is going to be cut considerably. And this has been announced. So especially if you're looking at a system which is more than 14 kilowatt hours, the subsidy is being slashed considerably because more people are installing them very quickly, and there's even a murmur. This setup that was announced about a month ago will soon be even reduced in the next budget. So if you want a battery, do it now. What about having got solar on our roofs? Why don't we go all electric? And then at least we will have one bill to pay, if at all. And there are 5 things that need to be done to go all electric. I think the hardest are the first 3, particularly the middle one. A lot of us still have gas heating, but also a lot of us are now moving into refrigerative air conditioning for cooling. We can use electricity, especially if it's free electricity from our solar, for heating as well. And in a minute you'll see how useful that is. Also, there's a huge move now to solar heat pump electric hot water systems. And these heat pump systems use a tank which is heated by the principle of refrigeration, just like air conditioning, and I'll say a little bit about it. And there's a lot being made certainly being talked about by a lot of leading chefs about how useful are the modern electric cooking practices. I know a lot of us prefer gas. So I'm sorry, this is a slide which has a lot of engineering, and all I want you to know is look at the bottom left-hand side and see how with 1 unit of electricity we can use the heat pump principle to produce 4 or 5 units of heat. So this heat can be used for heating or for cooling or for water heating. That means a small amount of our electricity which we're generating during the day can be used for all these things, and we are saving a lot of money. And just to give you an idea how much we're talking about, if we electrify our home, there have been lots of studies and updates about that. First of all, and this includes having an electric car, we save the petrol as well as the gas and the electricity bill, and we move from needing that amount, 100 odd kilowatt hours of energy, to 37 kilowatt hours of energy simply by using this heat pump principle for heating and cooling and hot water. And this results in a lot of savings. I think I better stop soon, so I'll just put a couple of slides on using smart technologies, because I mean, it's fine if we are at home and we're checking, we should be using our electricity when it's available, when the sun is shining and so on. But there's a lot of smart gadgets coming up and can be added to the home that will enable us to make this happen in a smart way. So once we install them, they'll do it for us. They'll learn how we're behaving. And those of us who don't like too much technology, just get yourself a little timer switch from Bunnings and put it on things like washing machines and dishwashers and other appliances to make them operate during the time when the sun is shining. And also the hot water system will do the same. I'm not going to continue now. I've got, as you can see, quite a few. The only thing I'm going to leave you with is this slide. Oh no, the last slide. And this I'm going to leave you to look at your energy bill, because it's important that we always need to check our electricity bill. There have been lots of studies done by independent authorities that show that if you don't change your energy provider, most of the energy bills that come from people who haven't reviewed them over the last year end up paying a lot more than they could be paying. So please use something which is government-based called Energy Made Easy, to just put your meter number, and then you end up getting the options that you can have that can save you on your electricity bill. And I think I better stop now. Thank you.
Wasim,
Thank you for that.
We have a little bit of time for 1 or 2 questions. Yes.
Yes, just you've done a lot of studies and you've got reports on a lot of the infrastructure. Big voice. All right, so just you've got a lot of information on studies, but a lot of us have two-story houses. I noticed before I got my solar panels, upstairs was
Oh boy, that's good.
yeah. Just before I got my solar panels, upstairs was horrendously hot on a 35 to 40 degree day. But even before I put my air conditioning on, by the time I got solar panels on, they almost reflect 50% of the heat and light. Is there a study into how much just having them on your roof double insulates your roof? Yeah.
It does make a bit of a difference. I mean, sometimes important the insulation itself, but certainly if you have a reasonably modern house, the insulation does most of the work, but the panel certainly helps a lot. Yeah, sure.
Just quickly, sorry. Okay.
Yes, on what happened. Years ago, probably 10 years ago, I don't think I'm needed. You can't. Subsidies are the issue to me. Many years ago, there was a very good solar hot water system basis in Australia in manufacturing. I went to Turkey and was somewhat surprised that just about every house I saw had solar hot water and they had fields of solar panels for their electricity. It struck me, why didn't our government, given that we did have the manufacturing in our country, put forward subsidies on rooftop solar panels for hot water? Because clearly every day, every house uses hot water. I am stunned that our country has not ever done that, and we went down a path of total subsidy on solar panels in every roof that you can possibly get. Not every house can do that, but it just struck me, this country should have had solar hot water panels on every roof that they could possibly do, and if the government had done it, it would have been pretty good. I don't disagree with you about that at all. I still have some of the old-fashioned solar thermal panel. If you remember, they're the ones that used to heat up the water and we store it in a tank, and they're still working perfectly. Having said that, I suppose it's government policy, and now the whole world is moving to all electric homes. Having said that, in many countries like Israel, Turkey, Cyprus, China, most homes and apartments have the old-fashioned solar panels, and as you say, they were used quite widely. We had lots of them in South Australia, and they had even more in WA, for example. Having said that, we have to accept that the revolution was made by the reduction of the price of solar panels around the world, which made them so cheap that now the old solar panels are a lot more expensive to provide us with hot water compared with using the latest heat pump technology using the solar electricity. And we have to move forward.
Was